place gets creepy when you're alone. 1. I dread going to the basement during night shifts. The hospital I work at is old, vast, and eerie. Stepping out of the elevator, I know I'm alone, but I always feel like someone's about to appear from a corner. The worst is taking bodies to the morgue, just me, a technician, and a creaky gurney rolling down a long hallway. When heading back to the elevator, I feel like someone's behind me making me walk faster, even though I know no one's there. That's one reason I'm relieved when my shift ends at 7 a.m. and all my patients are still alive. 2. I'm a doctor, and I can confirm this. Once, I went to the hospital pharmacy to pick up supplies, but the area had no signs, probably to deter theft of narcotics. The first time I went, I got lost for 45 minutes, wandering in circles. Finally, someone pushing a cart full of meds came out of an unmarked door and helped me find the place. It's creepy down there, especially since I kept passing the morgue. 3. I work at a preschool in a 200-year-old house. Every night when locking up, I hear footsteps from upstairs. In winter, when it gets dark early, locking up alone is terrifying. 4. I worked at a daycare in an old school building. The daycare used only a small part, while the rest was abandoned and locked off. The daycare area felt normal, but no one liked the classroom next to the abandoned section. Staff often reported hearing footsteps and voices in the empty hallways. Once, a few of us bravely explored the abandoned area. Despite locked hallways and stairs, in some classrooms, we found piles of old Apple computers with colorful shells, popular with the previous generation. Each room was filled with these tech relics, eerie in what used to be classrooms. Suddenly, we heard footsteps and voices. We bolted out of there. 5. I cleaned at a small 2-screen movie theater, and it felt creepy. Even with all the lights on, it was dim. Walking through the aisles between seats, I kept imagining someone crouching in a row, waiting. 6. Old hotels often have ballrooms and conference rooms. On New Year's Eve, my husband and I stayed at the Galvez Hotel in Galveston, Texas. After a few drinks at the bar, around 2 a.m., we wandered the hotel. We heard sounds like a party in the main ballroom, faint music, chatter, clinking glasses, and laughter. Curious, we peeked inside, but the room was empty. Still, it felt like someone was watching us. Scared, we ran back to the main hallway. 7. I visited an art museum on a rainy weekday after work ended early. My wing was deserted since everyone was at an exhibit in the other wing. Walking through large rooms with huge portraits and statues, I felt like their eyes were staring at me. To make it worse, someone nearby was tuning a piano, repeatedly playing a haunting note, like a horror movie scene before something bad happens. I nearly panicked when a guide suddenly appeared from a corner, smiling silently. I just wanted to leave. 8. I managed a children's museum, sometimes rented for nighttime parties, requiring us to lock up around midnight. The museum An old Carnegie library had burned down and was rebuilt next to an old church. It was rumored to be haunted. Staff and kids mentioned Chilly Willy, a homeless man said to have frozen to death outside the human body exhibit. Some saw childlike figures in mirrors while locking up. Locking up alone was scary, especially since the light panel was across the museum, forcing me to turn off lights and run through the dark to clock out. One night, after a messy party, I and 2 co-workers cleaned up. Balloons floated under the high ceiling, so we popped them with brooms. Suddenly, we heard noises from the human body exhibit, where a lung model makes breathing sounds when pressed. All 3 of us heard it, though we were alone, fearing an intruder or Chilly Willy. We foolishly checked. With me wielding a broom, the noise stopped. But we found the security panel beeping, signaling a gas leak in the creepy basement. We called the fire department. They found nothing and left. We were convinced it was a ghost and fled. Weeks later, I found a small white gas detector in the party room. I'd accidentally triggered it while dusting with the broom. Still, it's unclear why it pointed to the basement, but minor repairs there weren't uncommon. 9. The back room of the Goodwill store, where we store donations, is creepy. Sometimes, a kid's toy randomly makes noise for no reason, or passing a donated mirror, you glimpse something moving in it, startling you. 10. When I was 12, my grandma was sick in the hospital. My 2 older cousins and I went to the mall to distract ourselves. An old man approached, smiled, and handed my cousin a note saying, "Why doesn't the family open the door?" Confused, we stared as he handed another note, still smiling, because they're already dead. He chuckled and walked away. My cousins, terrified, grabbed me and ran to the car. We just wanted to get back to the hospital, where it felt safer. I still get chills thinking of his eerie smile and strange behavior. 11. I worked at a 24/7 facility handling sensitive documents. If someone needed info at midnight, I'd retrieve or confirm it. Security was tight barred windows and multiple locked doors to my area. At night, I'd finish tasks in 30-45 minutes, then play games or watch Netflix since I was alone in the building. One night, during my last shift, I heard a door slam. Checking the security camera, I saw someone walking down the hallway toward my room. Thinking someone arrived early, I waited, but no one came. I got chills. The building wasn't big, so I searched offices and storage rooms, but found nothing except a fire door had closed. I wanted to review the footage, but it was password protected. The figure's purposeful walk, heading straight for me, freaked me out. I sat trembling until my shift ended. When my replacement arrived, I told them, but by then, I thought I'd imagined it. The manager told me to go home. They checked the footage with my replacement at home. I called for an update. They said the camera showed the fire door closing. Then the video froze for an hour. The next thing recorded was me opening the door. 12. I worked in a hospital ward where a patient died. She had terminal cancer, but no one expected her to pass then. She was set to move to hospice the next morning. and her husband planned to meet her there. Everything was ready. She was in good spirits, stable, took her meds, and said she'd watch the news and sleep. An hour later, I checked on her. I adjusted her IV, arranged items within reach, moved a table, and realized she was gone. She sat propped against the bed rail, looking asleep, but had no pulse or breath. Usually, the mouth opens slightly in death, but hers didn't. I called a colleague to confirm, hoping she was just sleeping. I couldn't reach her husband, so I started paperwork and cared for other patients. Later, at the front desk, someone asked, "Where were you?" I said I was distributing meds down the hall. Two nurses exchanged odd looks, but didn't explain, so I continued working. The head nurse found me not because the husband called back. Apparently, while I was at the other end of the ward, calls came from the deceased patient's room to the central station. Some had only breathing sounds. No response. I thought it was a prank, but the caller ID matched her room. I checked the phone was neatly on the table, TV off, her body still looking asleep. The bathroom was empty. I left the door ajar and walked away. No more calls came, but the next hour was strange. Alarms went off in empty rooms. Call lights activated from immobile patients. A critical device failed, and a dementia patient kept saying a stranger matching the deceased patient's description entered their room. Her husband finally arrived. He knew why I called, spent a few minutes with her, then told me she said this morning she didn't want to go to hospice. It seemed she really didn't want to leave. After that, things returned to normal, hospital normal. Anyway. 18. 13. When I was about 5, I woke up and saw a glowing white figure of a man pacing in the hallway, almost gliding, terrified. I thought it was a nightmare. The next day, I told my parents. My mom looked strange, turns out. My brother saw the same thing 2 weeks earlier and told her. But I didn't know. I still get chills. 14. I was about 10 or 11 staying up late one night, feeling restless before bed. I pulled the blanket over me. Curling up against the wall, my double bed was against it. After an hour, I heard a strange sound sobbing. I tried to focus, hoping it was my imagination or a dream. But minutes later, I couldn't ignore it and had to check. I turned and saw a woman in a dress standing in the far corner, face buried in her hands, crying. Her hair was messy, clothes tattered, and she was unnaturally tall, about 7-8 feet, nearly touching the ceiling. Seconds later, she looked up, screamed a distant sound, stared into my eyes, then turned and walked through the wall. I was too scared to sleep that night. 15. On Halloween, my friends and I visited a cemetery a few blocks from home, thinking it'd be fun. Nearby was a building, once a restaurant, where no business ever lasted. The cemetery was like its backyard. That night, oddly, the building's lights were on, though no restaurant was operating. We saw a woman in a pink dress at a window, staring at us, panicked. We ran. She seemed to glide from window to window, following us, not walking normally. We sprinted down the street, passing a section without windows where she couldn't see us. But at the next window, she was already there, staring, terrified. We fled and never went back. 16. In college, I rented a 2-story townhouse with 3 friends. The living room had a loft, converted into a study I shared with a roommate, often. I, my roommates, or guests heard someone calling from the loft when no one was there. Strangely, the voice mimicked one of us, shouting for that person to come up. A friend once heard me calling from the loft while I was showering downstairs. I heard my roommate call me from there when he wasn't home. We joked the house was haunted, but it was eerie when uninformed guests heard the same sounds. 17. One night, I was in the living room with 2 others. Only that room lit. The stairs led from the living room to the dining room, so I could see into it from my seat. The others were looking at a book when I felt an urge to look at the dining room. I saw a tall, dark figure standing at the threshold, looking into the living room. The dining room was pitch black, so how could I see this jet black figure? And why was someone in my house? I stared for about 8 seconds. Then it turned and vanished through the wall, like it glided away. I was stunned. I was young, sitting with my brother, so I didn't say anything to avoid scaring him. No one else in the family saw it, but we all had odd dreams about a young girl, unrelated to the figure. It never happened again. Sadly, I'd love to see it now. I wasn't scared. The figure felt neutral, just curiously watching us. Come back, ghost. I'm ready to chill. Another time, I had a nightmare ending with someone behind me in a mirror, waking up. I stared at the mirror in my room, right in front of me. My heart nearly stopped, but I survived. 18. One night, I woke up in the middle of the night or early morning. Looking at the door, I saw a tall man's silhouette in a suit and top hat. I rubbed my eyes, trying to see clearly in the dark, and the figure was still there, hat and all. Thinking, what's that? I rubbed my eyes again, and it vanished. I assumed it was a trick of the dark and went back to sleep. The next morning, in the kitchen, my mom was making breakfast. I said, "Mom, I slept badly. Before I finished." She cut in. Me too, I woke up and thought I saw a tall man in a top hat at the door. 19. I worked at a century-old hotel in downtown San Diego, rumored to be haunted, but I didn't believe it. One night shift, near the end, 10:30 p.m., off at 11. My manager friend and I planned to hit a nearby bar. We finished paperwork early, but then a group of 10 Japanese tourists arrived needing rooms. In a rush, I checked the rooms myself instead of the cleaning staff. On the 4th floor, I checked 2 rooms fine. At the 3rd, a small 18 square meter room. I inspected the closet, bathroom, ensured enough towels, toiletries, and neatly folded paper. The closet and bathroom doors required a hard push and twist to open or lock. Everything was set. standing between the beds. I was about to call my manager when a man's hand slammed my shoulder, knocking off my hair clip. I spun around, ready to fight, but no one was there. I searched the room, thinking it was a prank, but I was alone. Then the closet and bathroom doors swung open and slammed shut 3 times in sync. My manager said I ran downstairs, pale, went behind the counter, and said nothing. I don't recall how I got down. The manager assigned the rooms. No guest complaints. I still don't know what happened. I was truly shaken. 20. In my freshman year of college, a friend told me about a haunted house near campus. I didn't believe in ghosts, so I thought it'd be fun to mess around there. The story was that the father of the family living there went to prison, and after release, killed his wife and twin kids in the house. At the house, 3 friends stayed in the car. 1 got out, but wouldn't cross the sidewalk. The friend who told the story said no one dared knock on the door. Feeling challenged, I ran up and knocked 3 times. Suddenly, the friend on the sidewalk screamed in terror. I turned to see all 4 in the car speeding off. Leaving me, I chased them, catching up 3 blocks away, in the car. I asked, what happened? The screaming friend, rocking in the back, muttered incoherently. After 10 minutes, we asked him. He sat up, stared at me in fear, and said, when you knocked, the ghosts of the twin kids appeared at the upstairs window, waving me inside. I don't believe in ghosts, and I'm still not fully convinced. But his sheer terror scared me. I'd never seen anyone that frightened. 21. My small town in southern Illinois, with about 6,000 people, has an old bridge rumored to be haunted by a girl who drowned in the river below. They say you can hear her scream at the right moment. In high school, my friends and I went ghost hunting for fun. Since living where half the population is prisoners or mental patients offers little entertainment, one night, around 3 a.m., we went to the bridge and waited. After 20 minutes of nothing, we started mocking the story, trying to scare each other. Suddenly, a piercing, eerie scream echoed, continuing even as we ran and drove away. But the scream wasn't the scariest part. My friend and I bolted to the car when the scream started. As we'd walked down a slope to the bridge's base, halfway, we both froze. I didn't ask what he saw, but I saw clearly a girl running on all 4s, darting into the woods. I rarely tell this because it gives me chills, and no one believes me. I'm not a liar. I've always believed in ghosts, loving horror movies and shows like Ghost Adventures or Taps. This was one of my life's greatest experiences. The thrill of encountering the supernatural is unique. Knowing there might be something after death is comforting. I've returned to the bridge and plan to take new friends there. If you're interested, I can share more weird stories from that place. 22. In my first house, sometimes at 3 a.m., I heard a woman's voice singing opera faintly outside my window while in my room. At first, I thought it was my imagination, but my twin brother, sleeping in the next room, heard it a few times too. 23. One night, around 10 or 11 p.m., my sister and I walked through a park. The path split a lit sidewalk past a baseball field and a dark dirt path. We took the lit one. Near the end, I saw a scruffy dog sitting by a lamppost, blocking the way. I didn't think much of it, but my sister seemed not to see it. I asked if she saw the dog. She said no. Confused, I looked again, and it was gone. I don't believe in ghosts, but this puzzled me. Maybe flickering lights like in a horror movie tricked me, but it felt creepy. 24. As a kid, at our log cabin in northern Michigan, around 1 a.m., we drove back from a friend's house. Turning a curve, our headlights lit up the road's end leading to our house. In the forest, 6 or 7 people stood staring at us. Their faces were pale, expressionless, unblinking. It was the strangest, creepiest moment of my life. 25. I was a counselor at a summer camp in a remote 100-year-old plantation. Strange things happened, but staff usually ignored them. Once, I had an experience alone, early morning, with all campers on the bus. I realized I forgot equipment in the big house, a 2-story Spanish-style building. I went back, upstairs. The girls' dorm door was closed. I entered the equipment room nearby to search. While looking, I heard footsteps climbing the stairs, stopping outside the door, thinking another counselor came to help. I called out my location, but no one answered or entered. I felt someone was there. My heart raced. I froze. I grabbed the gear and stepped out. The hallway was empty. But the dorm door was now open. Scared, I crept to the dorm to check. It was empty. I shut the door and ran. I asked the other counselors if anyone went upstairs. They said no, everyone was on the bus, waiting for me. 26. As a college freshman, I lived in a dorm and felt something off about my roommate's room. It was always cold, and once, a hanger flew out of the closet with no one near. That was just the start. During winter break, I was the last to leave the dorm. One night, alone, I watched TV in the common room. The TV kept losing signal, so I checked the cable, thinking it was loose. Passing my roommate's room, I glanced in and saw a tall, dark figure, about 9 feet tall. I stared for seconds. Then it vanished. Panicked, I unplugged the TV, covered the bathroom mirror, and closed the common room door. In my bedroom, I felt it return, standing at my door. Normally, hallway light shone through, but it was pitch black. Fear surged. I closed my eyes, grabbed my Buddhist pendant necklace from the nightstand, clasped my hands, and chanted in Sanskrit, hoping to dispel it. After minutes, the fear faded. I barely slept that night. 27. When I was about 8, I had a kitten poster at the foot of my bed. I loved looking at the cute cats before sleep. One night, lying in bed, I saw a kitten in the poster blink at me. Terrified, I ran to sleep in the living room. The next day, I threw the poster away. 28. After high school, my brother got his own house, and I'd hang out there while he worked. The house was split front with living room and kitchen, connected by a door to the back with bedroom and bathroom. One night, alone, the back door opened. A human-like figure, as tall as the doorway, stood there. It wore a white button-up shirt, white pants, had no face, and long black hair. When I stood, it jerked back like pulled by a rope, and the door slammed. I checked, but all doors to the rooms were shut. The back door was nailed shut so no one could leave without passing the front door. I searched the house, found nothing, and ran out, never returning. 29. I'm a scientist, so I rarely share this. My family visited an ancient Chinese temple, once a crematorium for centuries, per my mom's request. My brother and I brought a camcorder to film the trip. We hired a Buddhist monk as a guide. Near the temple, we started filming. The monk calmly said the spirits here were dark and angry, disliking being filmed, cocky teens. We laughed and continued. Instantly, the camcorder's battery died. Though we charged it that morning, we switched to a spare, also fully charged. But it died when aimed at the temple gate. Confused, we toured the temple for 45 minutes without filming, leaving and getting in the car. Both batteries were full, and the camcorder worked fine. Checking the tape, hoping to see the gate, we saw only black static. 30. About 6 years ago. Living alone in a one-bedroom upstairs apartment. No pets. Something odd happened. As I unlocked the door, I heard a sound like someone jumping off the kitchen counter, then footsteps running. It was so real, I grabbed a knife and searched the apartment, but found no one. I still don't understand it.